Welcome to another episode. This is our first official episode, and I've been recording out of order, so it's not the first one that I recorded, but it's definitely the number one episode. It's the episode I want to be 01 because we're spotlighting the iconic, the historic Partridge Family Lunchbox, and I've got a killer quality lunchbox that I'm so proud of. It's probably I have a few prized possessions, but I think it's probably my prized possession because, as we'll see with a lot of these items that I have or that are out there circulating, the Partridge Family items, there's a lot of them. I mean, you can go on eBay or Facebook Marketplace or even Etsy or whatever, and wherever you shop, and you could find an official first print of the Partridge Family Lunchbox. They're not that rare. The rare thing is the quality. And we'll see that with a lot of items. It's like these were not kept as souvenirs or, thinking that, oh, I'm gonna buy a couple of these and save them, because the people who were buying them basically were parents for their kids to use to go to school and take their lunch. And these metal lunch boxes, which brilliant idea, I guess, for kids of that age during 1971 is when Thermos produced these. And I think it was like 1974 when they were outlawed, because let's face it, they're dangerous. People get hit with them and you cut yourself, and it was not a good design. Once they went to the plastic lunch boxes, I think that kind of went downhill as far as lunch boxes go. But the metal one, I probably went through, I want to say at least two or three, definitely two, at least three Partridge Family lunch boxes, because this was it, man. This was the only one I wanted. I think before this, I probably had like Peanuts or Snoopy. And but when this came out, I was like, oh, this is my last lunchbox. This is going to be it. If I get a new one, it's going to be a new one of these. And I definitely had to get new ones because, like I said, these weren't treated like collectibles. And so they were in the elements. I remember riding my bike to school and putting this in the basket of my bike and with my one book and riding to school. And so it was damp. Sometimes it was rainy. I grew up in Southern California, so the elements weren't too bad. I can imagine if, kids growing up in the snow or like harsher weather, but these still took a beating. And the ones that you'll see out there a lot of times, like the ones that are kind of worn, you could tell they were really used. They have a lot of rust because it's metal, and it rusts. And there is some rust on this one too, even though I consider it a mint. I think it's near mint. I see some nicks now that I'm looking at it closer, but I've had it for a few years and I've kept it in relatively safe space. I had it in a plastic bag for a while, but then I thought, oh, it's probably collecting moisture. And I'm not like, I'm not an experienced collector, so I don't know how to keep these things from just deteriorating. It's like my vocabulary, but I kept it in a cool, dry place so it wouldn't be so exposed to the elements like it was when we were kids, like in the early 70s. Like I said, this was produced in 1971 and probably went through the metal lunchbox phase through 74. And this was the end of the show, basically. And so like they were exposed to the elements. Like I said, we didn't have backpacks when I was a kid. Listen up, kids. This is a history lesson. But I remember we didn't have backpacks. Some kids used book bags, but those were kind of the nerds and like the cool kids. We didn't want book bags. So we just threw everything in our basket. Like that was cool. Or like some of the guys, would actually ride, with on their handlebar like this. And or with the book, one-handed. Sometimes I did that too. And so it got exposed to elements. And then of course, when you're eating your lunch, sometimes things dripped on the inside. Well, look at the inside of this. Actually, we're going to go through the whole thing. I'm gonna do a close-up of this, and we're going to examine all sides of this. But so you eat your lunch and you spill milk or the thermos, and the thermos is another story. We'll go over the thermos as well. Or you'd go out to lunch after you eat your lunch. You'd go out to recess. So you take. I mean, I can remember taking my lunch pail, as much as I loved it, just like checking it in front of my homeroom. It hit the wall, hit the sidewalk in front of the classroom, or maybe there was a puddle of water there, so that's when the rust really got to it. So we were kids, I'm gonna say 7, 8, right? So like second grade, third grade, so you're not really careful with the things, right? And so they would, they rusted, they got scratched, they got banged up, they got dented. It's metal, so there's even a little dent on this I'll show you. But for the most part, these are out there. If you want one, you could probably, in fact, I saw one on eBay the other day for $35, but the condition is horrendous. I mean, it's just covered with rust. It's like, who wants that? But that's probably what you're going to end up getting, because to find a real pristine one is rare. And when you do find it, it's going to cost you some money. That's for sure. And I do have another one of these that is kind of older and rusty. I picked it up for kind of cheap, so it wasn't too broken up about it. But I'll show that one to you so you can kind of compare. So we'll take a close look at this. The iconic, it's in the Smithsonian Institute, by the way. It's in the Natural Museum of American History. So I'm sure it's in a couple of time capsules too, which is kind of cool. Can you imagine, like, oh yeah, it's like the year 2525. Let's open up this time capsule, and they'd be like, what the heck is this? The kids actually carry their food in this? Crazy. So Thermos produced it and released the first one in 1971. So let's take a closer look at this. Okay, so here it is in all its glory. This is a really good condition lunchbox. I mean, for what you see out there, and I think if you do explore this a little bit more, if you see this out there, you will see that this, in comparison, is one of the better ones you'll see. So we'll start at what I would consider the front. And of course, you got the classic Partridge Family bus, the Partridge Family logo. We've seen the font change over the years too. They not maybe over the years, but in different iterations, they use different fonts. But so this is kind of a different font than what they use on the TV show and on a lot of the albums. And of course, Thermos has their logo on the front. And then there looks like there might be, and I'll enlarge it a little bit here, some like sticker residue. Like maybe they had a price tag here at one time, and the person who took the price tag off was smart because they didn't scratch it. It's not scratched, but they're definitely, I would even hesitate myself to try to clean it off, because you don't know if you're going to rub off the paint or, and this is pretty good. I mean, like I said, we're going to show you not we're, I am, there's nobody else here but me, but I'm going to show you a comparison lunch pail of what is more common that you'll see out there. And then you could see the difference of what I'm trying to say here. So that's the front. The back, I'll just turn it over. We're going to look at all four sides too. Of course, the Partridge Family singing. Old Chris. Like I said, this came out right as the Partridge Family began. The show began September 25th, 1970. And of course ran through August 24th, 1974. A very short run for a TV show. And let me tell you, I mean, and it's something we'll talk a lot about, is that Screen Gems, West Farrell, Bell Records, Sony, they knew it was going to be a short run show, because most shows back then, that were family sitcoms were, kids grow up and things happen, and who knew what was going to happen with David Cassidy. But, so they packaged, I mean, they just threw as much merchandising as they could. And one of those things was the lunch pail. I'm sure they made a lot of money off of it. I love this lunch pail so much. It brings back so many memories. Lori's body always looks kind of weird to me, but yeah, it brings a lot of memories back, because even though it was a really popular lunchbox, I don't remember seeing a lot of kids with it. I mean, I knew there were a few not in my class, but in my grade, in other classrooms that had it, and you'd see them and you'd kind of give them a nod, like, yeah, you're cool, I'm cool. Because most everybody had like, I don't know, like strawberry shortcake or, or Brady Bunch, or, one of those other my brother had Hot Wheels. I remember that he had the Hot Wheels lunchbox. So there were a lot of different lunchboxes out there at the time, but definitely Partridge Family was the #1. So let's look at the top. Of course, we've got that same logo. We got Simone, the dog, underneath the handle. Hey, Simone. Very good. And you'll see, like, no rust. This is basically where you'll see the rust on these things. Right here on the white, on the clasp. Usually these are rusty. These areas are usually very rusty. Because obviously this was exposed, there's not paint on it. And so, you know, like I said, like when the elements got to it, the rust just like took over. But this is very clean. You'd be hard pressed to find a lunchbox in this condition. That's why I'm so happy with it, and why it's the #1 episode. And there's a little dent here. I don't know if you can see it. You can kind of see it with reflection. So there are dents because, like I said, these were used. But yeah, this is a really good condition lunchbox, and we'll tip it over here. And of course, Keith, Danny, again, pretty flawless, no rust. There's some nicks here, but very clean, very clean. Little scratch marks here, but like I said, I mean, this almost feels raised, so I'd be hard pressed to kind of want to try to clean that up without kind of damaging it. So as you can see, thermos division, it says 73, which it could be. It could be manufactured in 1973, but I'm not sure what that number means. I guess I'd have to talk to a lunchbox collector expert. I'm sure they're out there, and I'm going to a collectible show in a few weeks, so hopefully maybe I can get some answers. That would be really cool, and then we can go back and talk about it a little bit more. So little scratches here. Chris, Tracy's head is significantly larger than Chris, but a good likenesses. I think better likenesses of them than of Keith, for example. Danny's a pretty good likeness. But once again, you know, pretty flawless. There's some bowing happening here, which probably, you know, just from time, you can see how this is manufactured. So I would imagine there would be some bowing. And then, of course, the two ladies, Mom and Lori Partridge. Another not very good rendition of Susan Day, but very good of Shirley Jones, I think. And again, just clean, right? No rust there. So awesome. Just a great piece. I think I've said it before. If you are a Partridge Family collector, your collection isn't complete unless you have this lunchbox. And if you're a lunchbox collector, your collection isn't complete without the Partridge Family lunchbox. So let's take a look inside. I know there's no sandwich or cookies or ding dongs or what else did I have in my lunchbox in those days? Oh, like the Pop Top puddings. Remember those? The snack packs, right? That wasn't too safe either, right? We had that Pop Top, like a tuna can, like, you know, and inevitably you'd cut yourself on it trying to eat a pudding or a fruit cup or whatever, or ding dongs. Remember those? So yeah, so these, I mean, it would carry everything, including the thermos, which we'll talk about. Now, one other thing I wanted to talk about is this clasp, because I remember when I did get new lunch boxes, it was because of the clasp. The clasp broke a lot, and this, you know what, this might be in 1973 now that I'm looking at it, because I remember the clasp being kind of a little older, old-fashioned than this. This looks almost somewhat modern. It's got plastic, and then of course the metal clasp here, clasp cover, I guess. But I remember the old one where you'd snap it, and that would inevitably just open up. I mean, you'd be walking and all of a sudden your lunch would just fall out. It would just go, it would just open up. And my mom would put a bobby pin in there to kind of hold it. So I remember I had to take the bobby pin out and then open up. Ah, the 70's, aren't they great? Okay. So I'm going to open this, and it's going to, I don't want to break it, but it is bowing a little, so it is kind of hard to open. And then, of course, the inside. No rust. And if this is a 1973 edition, and you know, I'll do some research and maybe go back and we'll talk about it a little later. That would make sense, right? That this is in a better condition because somebody probably took really good care of it. It was at the end of the run of the show. So maybe they just didn't want to use it anymore. And once the show was canceled, and then just kind of put it up on a shelf somewhere. So I can see that happening more than I can see someone saying, let's keep this lunchbox. It might be worth something one day. I'm not sure that they really thought about that back then. So yeah, so there's a good condition. I can see it now. I can see my little sandwich in there. We didn't even have Ziploc bags. We had we had plastic bags, but I remember we had to twist it with a little twisty. And then of course, ding dong and cookie and apple maybe, you know. And then of course, the thermos, which we'll look at right now. Very great condition. Ta-da! Yeah, lots of room, right? You had all the room for all the stuff in there. And then, of course, I probably would go like this, I guess. And I don't know, since I got this, you know, I bought this a few years ago. I don't know if this is the original one that came with this. It just came in the lunchbox, so I assume it was the original one. And there is a date on the thermos, and the thermos does say 1971, but it could be copyright. It's 1971, Columbia Pictures Industries, bottle number 2843. And these are actually, instead of illustrations of the cast, they actually have real photos, or a real photo of the cast here. I guess that's not such a bad rendition of David Cassidy on the lunchbox. I guess he kind of did look a little different as the years went on, but this is definitely 1970, 1971 picture. And for a thermos, not bad. I mean, it's dirty. I've tried cleaning it, scuffed. I don't want to clean it with any harsh chemicals. Obviously, I don't want to take any of the paint off. And there are chips and little dents here and there. But let's take a little closer look. And I think too, if you come across different thermoses, and I do have another one I'll show you right now, the thermos, the cup, is different colors. And thermoses are, again, this is why I say I don't know if this was the original thermos that came with the lunchbox. But and because of that, I think because these didn't have long lives. I mean, I went through the thermos before I had to get a new lunchbox because they were always breaking. I mean, they just weren't well designed for kids either, because as we're throwing the lunchbox down on the ground, you know, to go play recess, or, you know, as it's jostling around in our bike or whatever, or we're dropping it or something. This thing is not, you know, it's not kid proof. Let's put it that way. And so you got your little cup. Remember, and there's some discoloring on this, which is common. It's plastic. But then this is what I'm talking about for those of you who've never seen the inside of a thermos. Thermos. I think there's some type of glass material. And you can see, I don't know if you can kind of see the chips in there. And that was common. The flake of that silver lining, whatever it is, whatever substance this is. Like sometimes you'd be pouring your milk or your juice and you'd see these little flakes of silver in there. You know, it was, you know, we drank it anyway because it's the 70s and we were pretty hardy. But yeah, these things, and sometimes they would crack really bad to where there's no way you could put any liquid in here, you know, without sending yourself to the hospital or something. Or sometimes you'd have it and it would rattle. Like you could hear something in there rattling, and it looked fine when you looked in there, but you're like, there's something going on with this thing. There's something that, I don't know, it doesn't feel right. I think I want to drink out of it. So the thermoses, I think the lunch boxes outlive the thermoses a lot of times, but this is still a pretty good set. And if it did come with it, then I'm super happy. There's really no way of knowing at this point, but you'll see, like, there is a lot of rust, and I think that's pretty understandable because, you know, there was liquid in here. Liquid dripped down. Like I said, it's metal. It's going to rust, but this one's pretty good. I mean, the color looks a little faded. We'll look at another one that I have and kind of compare. but it does say 1971. So the Lunchbox is 73, but I'm not sure if that they mean 1973. So that's something, I guess, to ask somebody, hopefully at the collector's show that I go to in a few weeks. So yeah, so there you go. The iconic, the classic. I think we should play a drinking game every time I say iconic and classic on this this show, on this channel. But really, the Partridge Family Lunchbox, no doubt, classic. But I really wanted to just show you the comparison because this one is a little bit more banged up. It's probably more representative of what you'll find online or, you know, in collectible sites and things like that, because it is banged up. There's a lot of rust on it, but it's still in pretty good condition. I mean, like I said, it's hard to find these in the high quality like this one. But this is more normal, I guess, what you'll find online. I added it to my collection because, I mean, it was, like I said, it was fairly cheap and it's still in pretty good condition, but you could see the color is different too. So this was really exposed to some elements because you can see, I don't know if it's really something you can see on here. Let me see. I guess if we do side by side might be work better. There you go. Yeah. So you can see the color. It's a little different. Faded. If we look at the top here, this is what I'm talking about, like all of this. Look at this, right? Can you see that? That's like, this is pretty good. Like I've seen them completely black with rust. And then you've got the rust here as well. Again, you got the black. These are almost probably the same year in the more up-to-date clasp that was on there before. I think in the older versions. You know, a little rust, but not bad, right? A lot of scuffs. Like I said, I'd be hard pressed to try to remove some of this. It probably can be removed, but I wouldn't want to take the chance on that. And then the bottoms, of course, the bottoms are always kind of dicey because that's, you know, you basically put them down. So you'll see a lot of scratches on the bottom, a lot of rust. But like I said, not that many as than you would see. And then this says 73 also. So this might be the year 1973, both of these lunch boxes. Well, now that makes me want to go out and get a 1971. Uh-oh. Okay, I thought I was done with lunch boxes, but maybe not. If I find a 1971 or if anybody out there has one, let me know. We'll try to strike up a deal and we'll do a Lunchbox part 2, I guess. And it's, you know, it's worth it. It's worth doing 2 episodes on it. Banged up on the sides, so just kind of showing you like in comparison. I don't know what's in here. Let's see. Oh, yeah. This was another problem with these lunch boxes. The thermos holder. Let's see. So the thermos holder, I don't know if you can see it. It's right here. These 2 little things here. That was another thing that often got lost or broken. If you do find a lunch box online, I would say definitely ask for pictures of the inside to see if this is still there, because I've seen lunch boxes without it, which is common because, like I said, they're very easy to fall out. And then, of course, look at all that. And if you remember, my good quality one is completely white. So you got some scratches on here, some stains, I guess, and then rust. So this was more, oh, and then look at, you've got like some paint, I guess, coming off of that. So this is more indicative, I think, of a lunchbox that you would find on eBay, you know, with the rust, with the nicks and the dents and the discoloring. But it's still pretty good condition, because you got to think it's, you know, 50 years old at least. So the thermos that came with this, and again, I'm not sure if it's the original that came with this. Let's see if this says 1971. It does. Has a different color top. And actually, let's compare. my good quality one with a not so good quality one. And again, I think this is really indicative of what you'll find online right now is like the rusted, you know, actually even kind of chipping here. It's dirty because these were used, right? Different color cap, which, you know, could mean something or it could just not mean anything. It could just be design change. And the bottle number is 2843 on the good one and 2843 on the bad one. So not too much difference between these two other than they change the cap. And you know, how smart is that? Because as you're changing the design, that's probably the cheapest thing that you can change on this. Like you won't change the graphic, even though there are plastic thermoses out there that you've probably seen too. Again, I'm not really interested in those, but I like the original, old-fashioned, as they say, vintage. Discoloring, I think that was common. So yeah, so a cheap way, I guess, to get around a redesign and make it different and fresh. Now let's see what the inside looks like. Same thing. It's got those little chips inside. Like I'm telling you, you'd pour this out and you'd pour this out in your cup and there'd be like little silver things floating around. You just pick them out. I'm hearing if there's any shaking in here. I hear a little bit. So I think they broke in the inside, maybe in the insulation part. And then they would just, you'd hear like this, something jiggling in there. So a little different in the color, but other than that, and then of course more rusting on this one. So there you have it. Classic, iconic. So I hope that you enjoyed our little stroll down memory lane and the iconic, the historic, the Smithsonian Institute living lunchbox. It's a classic. I think everyone should own one. And like I said, you know, it's the quality, not the quantity, because there's plenty out there, and you know, looking at the differences of them is really cool. And the best part is like, especially when I'm doing something like this, I'm taking a deep dive myself and learning so much about this. Like I never even noticed the 73 on here. I never noticed the clasp is different. I mean, maybe I did, but I just forgot. I don't know. So it makes me want to learn more about the lunchbox, and it's something that I'm going to continue to kind of dive into. And then, like I said, we'll have a follow-up episode because I think it's worth knowing more about the lunchbox. And I mean, that's the great part of this channel, I think, is that we're learning together and also having a lot of fun and going down memory lane and talking about these great items. I mean, look at the condition of this. If that doesn't like bring a smile to your face, I don't know what does. Hey, if you like My Partridge Family Collection, give me a thumbs up. That helps people find the channel. And because we don't want it just to be us, right? We want to like send it out to the world and make sure that everybody's watching that want to watch. And remember to subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss any episodes. Also, if you're interested, My Partridge Family Collection is on TikTok. I don't have a lot posting right now, but I will. And so join me there too. I'll be sharing a lot of the items in my collection there, some fun facts, maybe some different angles and so on. So follow me there at My Partridge Family. The link is in the show notes, and I hope to see you there. And like I always say, if you're a Partridge Family collector, and I know there's a lot of you out there who are, I'd love to hear from you. Or, you know, if you have any collectibles or memorabilia from the Partridge Family, or David Cassidy, or Shirley Jones, or Simone, the dog, or any of the cast, you know, send me an email. My email is down below as well. If you're looking to rehome some of those items, I'm happy to take them off your hand. You know, they'll come to a good home. I'm not going to turn around and resell them. I'm going to enjoy them and then possibly share them on this channel. And then maybe, you know, give you a shout out too. So, this is, like I said, it's an active collection. I'm always still looking for interesting things. So you know how to contact me. Thanks again for stopping by, and we'll see you next time. Love this.